Hello, folks. I'm Alex. I'm the Devil's Advocate. I talk about movies, music, TV, video games, whatever I feel like talking about on this channel. Today is a very special day because yesterday a little movie came out that I want to talk to y'all about that I saw last night called Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Hi, my name is Peter Parker. I have something to tell you that's gonna sound crazy.
So, the latest Spider-Man is out. Also, aka the very first Spider-Man 4. There have been several attempts to get to a Spider-Man 4. Tobey Maguire. That one was gonna have a fourth that I think was gonna feature the Lizard, but got canned after the poor showing from Spider-Man 3. Andrew Garfield's trilogy was gonna, trilogy, didn't end up being a trilogy. It ended up being two movies because the second one also didn't do so well. So they've been trying to get to a Spider-Man 4 for over 20 years now, and they finally made it. So congratulations, Tom Holland, on being the inaugural Spider-Man 4. This film was fine. It was fine, and it was fun. And I think opposed to Supergirl, which I also was very much anticipating, but found very disappointing. And if you want to see my review of that, go check out Movie Night Extravaganza. Shout out to the folks over there. They had me on. They are fellow hosts of this space, which you can find the link for in the description of this video. Monday through Thursday, we are live talking politics and movies and all kinds of different stuff. But I generally don't like to make reviews on things I really didn't like or I was very disappointed in. So that's why there's no Supergirl review up on my channel. Despite me saying how excited I was to go see it. So go check out the Movie Night Extravaganza episode on Supergirl to hear my thoughts. But Spider-Man, that should tell you that I did enjoy this movie. We're not going to do spoilers right now. We'll get into spoilers in a little bit. But I will say, I follow like the internet news and whatnot. Not as detailed as some others, but enough that there wasn't that many surprises in this for me. I will talk about stuff that we saw in the trailer. So, like, Punisher is in this film, and he is in this film. It is not a cameo. He is part of the movie. And I kind of enjoyed that. I did. I didn't know how much I needed a Spider-Man Punisher team-up. Look, I was hoping this film was going to be a on-the-ground Spider-Man street-level character story. And for the most part, it is. It kind of reminded me of Spider-Man Homecoming in that way, where we're doing an on-the-ground story, but of course, there are the hints and nods and cameos of the larger MCU going on. So within this film, I mean, this is still Sony. Sony still owns Spider-Man, so this is a partnership with Disney, and you can feel the like back and forth almost of like, here's the grounded story about Spider-Man and identity and sacrifice and loss, and then here's the MCU stuff that we need to like mix in here to have branding and to set everybody up to go see Doomsday in a couple months. I will say the MCU stuff was mixed in fine, like it worked. As we've seen in the trailer, the Hulk is in this movie, Bruce Banner, that kind of worked for me. Again, Punisher kind of worked for me. I love seeing Scorpion. Scorpion is one of my favorite villains of Spider-Man's of all time. Probably due to the trading card artwork. Like back in the day, you can get trading cards of specifically Marvel characters. That's where I learned a lot of these Marvel characters that I wasn't reading comics at the time. So I always loved the look of Scorpion. Nice to see him in this movie with the full suit. Would have liked to kind of find out where he got that suit, because the last time we saw this character, he was just a nameless goon, pretty much, in Spider-Man Homecoming. Was like in the tag at the end when Michael Keaton's Vulture is in prison, and he's like, maybe we could team up someday. And then, of course, Morbius happened, and Venom, where, like, oh, Michael Keaton gets pulled into that universe, and then, I don't know, maybe he's working with Morbius, or nobody knows what's going on. Michael Keaton is not in this movie. Vulture is not in this movie. But, again, I would have liked a little bit of, like, where the hell did Spider-Man, or did Scorpion get his outfit? Where did he get that mechanical suit? Why is he all of a sudden just being called Scorpion? That is one of the more frustrating things about, like, the MCU in general. They will do a lot of character development off screen and just expect you to roll with it, and we do, but, like, why is Bruce Banner here now? The last time we saw Hulk, he was full Hulk mode, but speaking as Bruce Banner, he was Smart Hulk, if you will. And I think the last time we saw him was in She-Hulk, where he, like, shows up at the end. Well, he's in the beginning of that show, and then shows up at the end with his son's scar from another planet. Are we gonna address that? Like, what's going on with that? Hulk has Banner has an inhibitor on that's keeping his Hulkness at bay, which, again, like, even getting to Smart Hulk in Endgame, that was all off screen. That was huge character development for Hulk. That's most of Hulk's stories, is him wrestling with the duality of that. I understand Universal still owns Hulk, so you can't really make a Hulk movie, which is why they're doing a lot of this, like, we're going to develop his story in cameos and stuff. I mean, the Captain America Brave New World movie did a lot of that too, bringing back the leader from the Incredible Hulk movie, and Betty Ross, and less said about the Hulk the better. But he's in this. He does a good job integrating and serving a purpose in the story. And we do follow up on where we left off with Peter in No Way Home with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and the spell that makes everybody forget about Peter Parker. Here he is, been living on his own for 4 years. We get a montage in the beginning. I also forgot to mention, making this review, that there is a lot of flashbacks that reminded me of Daredevil, The Boys, and Stranger Things. If you go watch my Boys and Daredevil reviews, I mentioned how much they harken back and just straight up show you scenes from the earlier seasons to kind of remind you why you care, why you should care about what you're watching right now. I don't think it's as egregious in this film as those, because this film is actually straight up better than definitely the last season of The Boys and season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. But Daredevil Born Again season 2 wasn't that bad, and this movie was pretty good. So I don't know why they emphasized so much of that stuff, other than to remind you of the love and affection that Zendaya and Ned have for Spider-Man, and how sad it is that they don't remember him right now. I would have liked to see more of these villains either pop up again later in the movie, because there's opportunity for that. The main antagonist is using people to get their agenda done, and why not also use Tombstone if you have him in this movie, or Boomerang. And because she does use Scorpion later, so, like, why not also use some of these other villains? Damage Control is also heavily featured in this, which I believe began with A Homecoming. They were the company that put Michael Keaton's Vulture out of business of cleaning up the Battle of New York, which was the impetus to lead him to, like, the life of crime that he was doing. I think the last time we saw Damage Control was in Miss Marvel, the TV show, where they're hunting her and, see her as a threat. Slight parallel to how the federal government and local cops were cracking down on Muslim communities and oppressing Muslim communities after 9/11. So there was but it's Disney, so they're not going to go too deep into that, but there was some allusions there. And at the end of that show, her friend is like, oh, your powers don't just come from this bangle that you have, it's also that you're a mutant. And then we get, you know, the Marvels movie, where at the end of that, Monica Rambeau ends up in another universe, and that universe is the X-Men universe with Beast. So we've gotten some hints of like mutants and stuff, but I think that was the only, my recollection, the only time there was reference to mutants or anything like starting to build towards X-Men coming, which, you know, at Comic-Con, which just happened, was announced like X-Men, you know, a new class, new generation, whatever it's called, is going to be coming out in like 2027, 28. So we shall see. We shall see how they integrate. And of course, in the Doomsday trailer, we've seen Professor X and Ian McKellen as Magneto. So we're getting those old characters signing off yet again, and to make way for the new cast. So there was some cool stuff in this. I can't say much more without getting into spoilers. So spoilers. Damage Control is coming after anything they deem a threat, right? Superpowered beings, or even people like Scorpion who just have like a special suit or something. They are also hunting mutants. Clearly, because the antagonist, the mystery antagonist, who everyone guessed who it was right as she got cast, Sadie Sink, is, yes, Jean Grey. So Jean Grey is here. She is jumping through bodies, and it's kind of an interesting way to show her powers. I don't think we've seen it used like this before, except maybe Professor X in one of the old movies. I forget. But yes, Sadie Sink is Jean Grey. And she is trying to find her sister, who I didn't know she had a sister in the comics. Looked it up after the movie. Yes, she does. But they changed kind of how she acts, that she also had powers. She was her older sister, had powers. Got kidnapped in the middle of the day when they're chilling at a park. We get this like towards the end of the movie. It actually kind of reminded me of like an ICE raid. You know, not a raid, but how ICE just be kidnapping people off the street, because that's what they do. That is their job, is to oppress the population. She got kidnapped, and then Jean Grey's been looking for her the whole time, kind of learned how to jump bodies from her sister, and is doing that to find her, has scrubbed the internet of... Actually, no, Damage Control scrubs the internet of any mention of Jean Grey, because they want to suppress the fact that there are mutants out there, I guess. We don't get the word mutant, which I thought was strange, because, like, this is a Spider-Man movie. And you know everyone's going to see this one. So, I can't believe I'm asking for, like, more exposition, but a little bit of, hey, mutants and Jean Grey, and remember X-Men? You know, we can't mention X-Men yet, I guess, but, I don't know, get some other, like, things on a screen where they're looking at like Jean Grey and like, what's this folder, this X folder or mutant M folder, and it's like, oh, there's Nightcrawler, there's whatever, just to hammer home to the audience who these people are, because I'm convinced most general audiences don't know the name Jean Grey. That maybe I'm selling them short. But I don't think even you were like, hey, here's Femke Jensen from the X-Men movies. People will be like, who is that? Like, I don't remember. She was not that, she didn't have that iconic of a look, really. And she's not, Phoenix. People remember Phoenix. I went to see it with my two friends. They were both shocked. Oh my God, Jean Grey. And one of my friends nudged me and goes, is that Phoenix? I'm like, yes. So, maybe, you know, Phoenix program, who knows? That could have been a helpful thing, but doesn't matter. She's here, she's hopping bodies. Initially, Spider-Man's the only one who can sense her, but then his physiology starts changing. He starts mutating, and he's getting organic webs and more aggressive, and we're kind of doing like that Venom arc from Spider-Man 3, where he's getting angrier. But that kind of doesn't, it's heavily featured in the trailers, like he's in a web cocoon and wakes up like, whoa, what's going on? That kind of doesn't really factor in at all. Like, it's used as a plot device until they get to the point where Spider-Man goes to the Hulk to figure out, hey man, you have that inhibitor that keeps the Hulk at bay. What if we made like a universal inhibitor? Because it would work on DNA, and that, you know, Hulk doesn't know who he is, so he's trying to pretend he's a student and whatnot. But Hulk kind of makes mention like that could be a dangerous thing because who decides what should be suppressed and what doesn't? Kind of hinting at like maybe Peter Parker is the one who creates power inhibitors that then the government can use to hold superpowered people in prison, whether or not they're actually bad guys, right? I mean, they use it towards the end of the movie on Jean Grey. Now they piss her off. She realizes, oh, my sister's actually dead. The thing I've been looking for, VMAX, she's like in this prison and she's looking up and it's a vent max. It's just the ENT has been like rubbed off. And she's like, oh, this is the last thing my sister saw before she died. You killed her. Experimenting on her, torturing her. Again, much like what happens with Ice in real life. That was, you know, interesting and shows how pissed off she gets. And then she explodes. Her powers explode. Kind of hearkening back to Thunderbolts. Shout out Thunderbolts. Where Bob is like, creates that like shadow pocket and puts everyone in the shadow realm until they can save him, and then he releases them. Similar here. And not too out of bounds because Florence Pugh makes an appearance in this movie as Black Widow, you know, the head of the new Avengers. She's very fun and kind of just talks to Peter about like, hey, your problems are like small potatoes. Kind of the same thing we got in Homecoming, honestly, where Happy Hogan is like, yeah, or Iron Man rather, is like, hey, don't bother me with your like, you know, weapons problems. There was weapons trafficking. I don't care about that. We deal with like alien invasions and stuff. So similarly here, Florence is like, yeah, you're mystery bank robber person. Like, we don't really, you know, that's not an Avengers level problem. That's a you problem. And then of course it does become an Avengers level problem when she stops half of Manhattan in a radius around, or Manhattan and Brooklyn around Roosevelt Island in her psychic explosion, and everyone's like frozen. Like, you know, kind of like Professor X does in X-Men 1, where he can freeze everybody psychically and then like walk through so nobody knows that mutants are there or whatever. Some cool little callbacks that I caught. I don't know. Punisher's fun. Punisher's fun in this film. Apparently, I saw Hot Ones with Tom Holland and John Barenthal, and they were in a movie together like many years ago, and now they're in Spider-Man together, and they're in The Odyssey together. So, and they both share scenes in both movies. So they were really bouncing off each other well and had a really cool chemistry that I enjoyed.
Okay, we're rolling. Yeah, what the fuck? Let's go! Let's go! Take a picture of it! Let's go!
You can use that.
Come here, Tom. Hey, here.
You can use that.
Oh.
Look, Louis Vuitton, I got none of it on my phone.
I need a picture of that.
That's a pro right there.
Oh, has anybody puked before?
That might be the first on-set ever. I love being the first.
I was a little confused. Again, some of these things that happened off screen, I wish we had seen at least a little bit of, like Scorpion getting his costume, but also Damage Control apparently completely took down the Hand. The Hand being the ninja organization that we most saw in the Daredevil show, was like the cult of Elektra at one point, so we might get Elektra again, but the point is, and I think that's a way for them to early on in the movie hint that Damage Control is kind of amoral and is like, oh yeah, no, once we figured out that these ninjas are just like young people who need a leader, then we just made me the leader, and I'm gonna use them for good and things like that. They have Shocker's gloves. They have other technology that we've seen villains use and heroes use. So clearly they are like shady government organization. Again, in Miss Marvel, they were hunting down her and her family, very much echoing how the government hunted down Muslims after 9/11. Damage Control are the bad guy, the real bad guys here. There was a cool moment earlier in the kind of in the middle of the movie when Peter's constantly looking at the Instagram or whatever TikTok of Ned Leeds and MJ while they're at MIT in Boston, where he was supposed to go with them until he had to make everyone forget, of course. So he's been following them, and we see that montage in the beginning of like taking down Tombstone, taking down Boomerang, taking down like Tarantula and Scorpion and these villains, and passing the 4 years that they would be at school. So now they're finished with school and they're moving back. He shows up to a housewarming party and he kind of sees them again and worries away from telling them. He has a note that we saw at the end of the last movie that he was gonna tell her but chose not to make that sacrifice. Great responsibility. We all love it. There's a cool moment where Jean Grey is jumping bodies and finds Mary Jane, is taunting Peter with like, oh, I'm gonna find her. I'm actually in your house right now and I found this note and I'm gonna find MJ. And then later she does, but Peter doesn't quite know that yet. Peter shows up to her house like, hey, I'm Spider-Man. He doesn't reveal himself. He's just like, hey, it's me, it's Spider-Man. Like, you're in danger. I can't explain why. Just come with me. And she's like, okay. Goes with him. And then she's kind of saying like, I don't know, did we meet before? I have these memories of you saving me, but if once or twice would be one thing, but you saved me when I was in Europe. You saved me when I was like too many times in the Washington Monument in DC. There was too many times. And then they kiss and she's like, oh, Peter, I remember. And they hug and he's crying and he's like, oh, I missed you so much. And then we reveal, oh no, that's Jean in her head. She doesn't remember you. She's just playing with your emotions like this. And it was cool. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that reveal of the Vulture in Homecoming. That was a lot more tense than this. For me, at least. Like, I knew that this was Jean Grey. Like, this is not going to resolve this quick. She even makes a comment like, oh yeah, magic kiss is going to remove the spell. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. And we get him trying to protect Jean Grey or protect MJ by taking her to Punisher's hideout, which is on a dock that he's booby trapped. And again, more good stuff with Punisher. Now, seeing the trailers, I thought this was going to be Punisher is the example of someone who doesn't have anyone else. He doesn't have an option of not doing what he does. Spider-Man does. Spider-Man has people. And we do get some of that. And there's, a moment where she finds the note and she reads it and she's like, look, this is very sweet. And I'm sure the girl who you wrote this for really did love you, but I don't know you. I don't love you. And then she takes him. He takes her home, and then she's like, you want to come up and see Ned? And Ned's apparently has developed an app called Spidey Tracker, which you could actually go to, spideytracker.com, and like play an interactive thing on there. Matter of fact, so yeah, this is Spidey Tracker.
New sightings just came in, adding them now.
And you can just yeah, so this is what it looks like in the movie. We can kind of just like go around and click on little Spidey icons, right? And here on the site, it'll just show you like clips from other films or times that he was like in this location, So yeah, that was kind of fun. There's a lot of moments where they recreate iconic covers of Spider-Man comics. Again, a lot of cool Easter eggs that I enjoyed. And when they go to Ned's house and they're hanging out and they're like building Lego together, he's still wearing the Spider-Man mask. Ned is like an obsessive, kind of trying to figure out who Spider-Man is because he remembers being rescued. He just wants to thank him. You know, he's a fan. And they hang out, they build Legos, they're all hanging out together. And I was like, oh, I feel something here. I remember them hanging out. I remember them all being buddies. And this is kind of sad that they don't remember who he is. By the end of the movie, it is not resolved. Like, she still doesn't remember, but she sees who he is as a person. And she's kind of like falling for him. Now, we did reveal earlier in the movie that she had a boyfriend who shows up for that one scene, and that's it. After the Hulk is done, Jean Grey takes over the Hulk and uses him to fight Spider-Man. And then after that whole sequence, he's carted off in an ambulance, and that's it. Punisher, again, stays throughout the whole movie. She takes over Punisher at one point. That's kind of fun. Uses him to get at the damage control leaders to find out where her sister Sarah is, but this is where Spider-Man is able to put the inhibitor that he developed for himself onto her, sapping her powers. She gets taken out, and then later he realizes, oh, they lied to me, and she was just looking for her sister, damage control, bad guys, I gotta go save her. But she's already saving herself, and he has to fight the Hand under her control, which is cool. Like, the choreography is very cool. This movie looks great. It looks great. It's very colorful and vibrant. There's more, I know there's a lot of CGI, but there's way more like real locations and tactile feel that you can tell they're really there. And I appreciated that. This is maybe the best looking Spider-Man movie ever, maybe. I still love Spider-Man, one and the whole Tobey Maguire trilogy. But this one really did. There were moments where I felt like this was a comic book. The end of the film, the resolution of the battle with Jean Grey is kind of reminded me of Thunderbolts, where it's a battle, but then it's like, we gotta show him fighting ninjas. But it's really like, hey, look inside my head, I'll let you in, because she couldn't get in earlier. And now she's like, well, my powers are even greater now, so I can. And he's like, come on in. And you see a scene with Aunt May, where she's telling him, like, you're special, people are going to try to hurt you, but remember that you have others, that's your strength. You have a responsibility to stay yourself and remain yourself, and we love you, and this and that. And her wound is, yes, her sister, but her and her sister were kind of given up as orphans once they develop powers, so they have no mother. And they're like, that's kind of what they're in the park seeing, looking at a mom playing with her daughter and realizing like that is the thing they miss, that is the thing they don't have. So that warms the icy heart of Jean Grey, that memory of Aunt May, and they, apologize. I'm sorry you lost your sister. I'm sorry you lost your aunt. Who do you have? She's like, you have your friends, but I don't have anybody. He says, you have me. So she relaxes, and the powers start to come down. But Frank didn't know this, so Frank is professional sniper, and I like that they kept that from his first appearance in Daredevil. That's his background. He was an army sniper. Uses that training to try and snipe her from Manhattan into Roosevelt Island, which, again, the Punisher can do. And he puts his body in front of her, blocks the bullet, is bleeding out. She uses her powers to, like, hold him together till Frank can get him to the hospital. He's saved. Crowd outside is cheering for Spider-Man. Interesting that we have a Spider-Man who's, like, friendly with the cops. Propaganda, of course, but also allusions to the Sony Spider-Man video games. A lot of his, like, fighting moves are pulled straight out of those games. It worked because I want to download the game again just so I could swing around New York. So yeah, she's friendly with the cops, specifically Jean DeWolf, who is a huge comic character, and I thought we were like, oh, maybe we are doing Venom because this, Jean DeWolf, her death leads to the investigation of the Sin Eater, which leads to Eddie Brock, which leads to Venom. So maybe, no. But maybe those are other movies coming down the line. Who knows? This is a solid entry in the MCU as a Spider-Man film. It's the closest I think we're gonna get to on the ground street level Spider-Man. I wish we got more. I wish it was more like, hey, we're taking down Tombstone, and it's going through Boomerang and Scorpion and Tarantula to get to Tombstone, and that's the movie. And he's working with Punisher. You could do that because that's a crime family thing. That would work, but it's the X-Men. It's the X-Men. And I will say, in the theater, I was kind of like rolling my eyes at moments here because I knew Sadie Sink was going to be Jean Grey. It's just confirmed. I was hoping she wasn't. It was someone else, but what are you going to do? But the more distance I have from it and seeing other people's takes and reviews, I'm like, you know what? I think I really did like this movie. It was a lot of fun. Again, some of my gripes and just like some exposition and stuff happening off screen that I feel like you could throw in a line here or there, or a shot or a scene here or there that explains a little bit more of this stuff. But it's minor gripes in a pretty solid movie. So it's on track to make a lot of money. It's just Spider-Man. Spider-Man rules. Everybody loves Spider-Man. I got my orange and blue repping New York here. Yeah, check it out. Check it out. Spider-Man Brand New Day. I think it dropped the ball on the brand new day of it all because, like, his evolution happening kind of doesn't matter at a certain point in the film. It is a little bit harkening back to Spider-Man 2, where he's super, like, depressed, and so that's affecting his powers. Also happens here when he sees that MJ has a boyfriend. He's like, oh, he starts freaking out, and then his eyes will go black. He gets the organic webbing. There's funny scenes with that. But, like, there was no reason for that to happen other than a plot device for him to come up with the inhibitor. And then it's kind of dropped. Like, at the end, he's fighting the Hand and Damage Control. They have weapons to take him out, specifically. Jean Grey is taunting him. Why do you think they created weapons to take you out? Maybe it's because they were preparing, if you ever got out of line, the government will always come for you. Or at least the FBI, CIA, these shadow organizations will always come for you. Especially people who are different. ICE, whatnot. But after that, he then rips off the inhibitor, and he's like, I am Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and then is able to control his more evolved, advanced powers. Which, again, I'm like, what is this for? Why are we doing this? Why? I liked him having web shooters, man. I don't know. He's just like more strong, more agile. For some reason, when he is like that, he can't sense her in different bodies. Maybe because I think they do mention it though. Like his senses are overloaded, so he can't really use his spider sense. I guess. I'm guessing because it's not really explained in the film. And then at the end, he is able to also use spider sense. So we got the like ninja stars coming at him, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I can use it again. I can do the Matrix again." So yeah, I mean, it was cool, solid. Does feel a little more street level than any other MCU Spider-Man for sure. And yeah, man, it worked. So check it out. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Did you enjoy Spider-Man Brand New Day? And what do you think is role in Doomsday, if at all, or Secret Wars, or what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Jean Grey is the first official X-Man character in the MCU. Who's going to be next? Who's going to be next? Are we going to get him in Doomsday, or we're going to have to wait a couple movies after that? Who knows? Who knows, folks? But let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and thank you very much for watching.